Welcome back to the BOSStimator. Ryan Frick, your personal trainer again here. What makes the BOSStimator great as it compares to an Excel or a spreadsheet format? And what makes them horrible? Well, Excel is, as we discussed in the previous two tutorials, Excel is great at number crunching. It's okay in some other elements, but there are some elements within Excel that is really lacking. And as we discuss it, I think that you will agree that that it does lack in those features, and the BOSStimator excels in it. So let's get right into that. Let's go into an estimate that we got. And we've discussed this on I think it was on OK, one of the very first tutorials. But if you ever create a formula or a template within Excel and you reuse it and not remembering that you made an error and you made changes to the formula, you're going to get an error on that estimate. And that is huge, especially if the formula was a fixed price or a large dollar volume. There's no recouping that on some of your estimates, and that is a catastrophe just on one job. But there's other areas within Excel that it doesn't do very good also. One of those is error checking. How do you know that you've incorporated everything that you needed to do? Well, within the BOSStimator, one of the things that it does is it actually checks for the errors for you, so you can see if there's errors. Take, for example, anything in red says, hey, you're missing a number here. Anything that's for the quantities for the task. If you go into the items, you'll also have that same thing here for the unit rates, if you don't have no unit rates there. So there's a lot of components that tie together. But what the BOSStimator does to make it even easier for you to do an error check is that it actually does the error checks for you. So let's go ahead and act like we're going to make a print. What the computer is doing, before it will allow you to print or produce an estimate, it will go through and determine what possible errors there are. Right now there's 44 possible errors that are located within the estimate. It's determined from not having add-ons, not having numbers for a price for materials, not having a unit rate, not having anything. And it tells you what's to fix, what it is, what form it's on, where it's at, and then you can go through here and why it's deemed as a possible error. You could print this out and go right back to it and go right back into it again. So let's say, for example, we had 44. I'm going to go ahead and give it some unit rates here for some of these items. 125, 50, and these numbers I'm just making up, so just bear with me as I come down through here. 45, and as you see, the ones that are highlighted in red obviously tells you that there are some possible errors, that you're missing something, and it's important that you have that. And let's go see here where we're at now. There may be other ones that are not incorporated in it, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and go back to the error screen and see how many there are. There was at 44. Now we are down to 34 items. So there's still some areas in there where we need to go ahead and make some adjustments to. Why does that take place? Well, you forgot to put a number in, you forgot to put a quantity, the unit rate wasn't right, it was left out from the beginning, so on and so forth. The driveway wasn't done. So let's go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and fill in a couple more. These are these with errors in assemblies, and one of these, it's just saying, hey, you're making changes to the unit rates within that. So it's basically just making sure that you got everything else taken care of. Unit rates for the handrail, changing it allows you to change. As you could, so it basically is creating an error check mechanism. And there may be more, and I could go through each one of them to verify where everything's at. I'm not looking at the prices, I'm just changing it so you can see what the error check mechanism does and how it works. So we went from 44 down to, I think, 24. Now we're down to 15. So again, you're going through a list of things that you're checking off of to make sure that you have an accurate estimate. Excel won't do that. You get what you print out. And that's what one of these items could possibly save you tens of thousands of dollars. Even it would definitely pay for the program on individual projects just by having this mechanism by itself. But let's go ahead and discuss some other things that BOSStimator does great, but Excel cannot do, or they really stink at. Bidding. There's a complete tutorial on bidding, and I would suggest that you watching the BOSStimator and the BOSStimator Plus videos online. But basically what the program does is you establish that you want to create a bid for a project. I'm going to do a quick one right here just so we can get into it. We've already created a framing package, but I'm going to go ahead and I want to do a let's go and do a roofing package for this project. What the computer did, and it created it, it actually went through all your items, found out what PO package they normally belong to, and that's done through your defaults. So when you're in here in your items, you assign each one of these items to a PO package, whatever it may be. Then, so when you created the bid package for roofing, it went through, found all the items that belong to the roofing PO package as a default, combine them together, determine what the quantity of those. So if, like say for example, if this was all roofing, the 2x12/16, it would have added up all of those task quantities together, so you're bidding out the exact quantity. So let's go ahead and see what that roofing bid package looks like. Now that fast it brought the entire roofing package together. As you can see right here that I have 25 of these drip edges, so on and so forth. I don't have to figure it out. I don't have to add them together. The computer did it. But let's say I want to go ahead and make this 28. Fine. I'm going to press OK. I'm done. Now you got to find your subcontractors that you want to bid it. If you have a tremendous amount of subcontractor base that you've used in the past, it's as simple as find vendors and update their pricing. Right now we do not have any vendors that have supplied that in the past. It's a brand, I just pulled this out of the box basically. I don't have a lot of subcontractors in there. But if I did, what it would have done is it would go through back into the main page through the subcontractors and vendors you have in here. You got 100 of them or whatever, and it would have went through every one of their databases that's created by every time they bid it. It adds to their databases, went through everything that they supplied. And let me just go ahead and put in here roofing shingles. And I think felt. What else was on that bid list? Let's go back here. Roofing green tabs. Okay, so now that subcontractor actually bids it. So I'm going to try to see if he's in there again now. Voila. As you can see, he was added because the computer went and found all. So if I had 100 of them, it would have brought 100 of them in. And actually what it would have done at the same time is if they bid it in the past, it would have brought in from their previous bid the exact price that they bid each one of those items on in the past. And then would have printed it out in such a fashion that it would have told them that, hey, you bid this last time on this date for this price. Try to do that with an Excel spreadsheet. You don't have to do it. It does it automatically. But let's say I was done for purpose of this demonstration so we can get through it. I'm done. Fine. I'm going to request the bids. It's going to present it in a professional format, combine this stuff together. It would make it, find out who the test subcontractor is, get their address, puts the information for the projects, and allows them to fill it out. If they would have bid it in the past, it would have put their SKU number that they bid it at last time, so it identifies what to their database and what their previous price of and what their price was and when it was. So it keeps them honest. With the BOSStimator Plus, it goes one step further. The BOSStimator Plus says, okay, let's go ahead and publish it. If I press yes right now, which I will do, I don't have a BOSStimator Plus license. I need to initiate it. But what it would have done, it would have taken the information, it would have published it online in a database, it would have notified other people in the area that there's a new bid out for this. If you so choose to allow other people to bid it, it would have sent an email out to this subcontractor saying, hey, you've been requested to bid this. And then it would have given them a link where they would have been able to go look at it. And if they have the boss to bidder, boss to buyer, which is free of charge to them, they could fill in their number, send it back to you, and you wouldn't even had to touch anything, and it would have come back and linked back in to their bid and updated their bid without you touching it when they're done estimating it. Or they could fax it back over and you can manually do it. So it allows them to do it. let's say and then after the bids are done and you do a comparison, it will compare each one of your bidders item by item, make sure they're bidding apples to apples using their SKU numbers to make sure that it's apples to apples, and it will analyze the fact that which one is the average bid, which one is the lowest bid, lowest combination of different suppliers, and then you could choose which one you want to use for your unit rates. All that is done behind the scenes. So I'm going to go ahead and without you doing anything, the computer's doing all the work. It's combining all of it. And then when we got a bid back, it obviously will update that subcontractor's previous history, so that now they know what they bid last time. It does so much. After you're done with it and you award the bid, it'll actually go back in the estimate, find every item that was bid on that individual bid, and that's what these things are saying. These are the bids. And we'll say, hey, this was bid out on this individual roof felt was bid on bid number 3. Okay, so what is that? You can click on that and it'll pull up that bid and so on and so forth. It ties it all together into a platform that of estimating that an Excel spreadsheet cannot touch. Let's go one step even further than that. So let's get into, let's say you're calculating the square footage or the running footage of some items and you don't know how to determine it. Right now you may be using a digitizer, a scale, rolling scale, or maybe even a regular scale. Don't know what you're using. But you're manually entering in those quantities into your estimating software package in Excel right now. Guarantee it. There's no other way of doing it. BOSStimator says, okay, let's just do it off of a set of plans. That's an easier way of doing it. That's called BOSSitizing. I'm going to go ahead and BOSSitize a new set of plans. And I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to call this one for exterior. And for purposes of demonstration, I'm not going to get into everything in here, but I'm going to BOSSitize inside of the BOSStimator system. And what you don't see, let me pull this down so it fits on the screen. I'm going to go ahead and go to this plan. And then I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to BOSSitize. I need to set a scale. I'm going to say from this point to this point. It says it's 15. Oh, you know what? That's not 15. That's 25 foot. Okay. Now let's say we need to go ahead and figure the area, or we'll go the length. Length from here to here to here to here. And that's it for the purpose of this calculation. Well, that's 129 foot. I'm going to go ahead and send that to the BOSStimator. And what the computer's doing, it says, okay, I'm linking it, I'm making a copy of it, and I'm going to save the digitized information, and let's go back to estimating. It has sent and made a photocopy of the exact areas where it was digitized, showing you the scale footage, and now it knows what it is. And let's say we want to go ahead and say that belongs to, let's go ahead and add an assembly. These are the assemblies that are in your database driveway. It's not, obviously, but we're going to say for purpose of this, I'm going to add that assembly to it. So what it did is it brought that assembly in, found out all the tasks that associated with it, changed the factor, which was the length, to 129. So it basically tied that quantity to a set of plans. It's that fast. Now let's go ahead and update the estimate. And it's done. Let's go back to the tasks and see what we got. I had a hard time with that. Let's see if I can find the driveway real fast. I'm going to say contains drive. Okay. Well, that wasn't it either. Actually, it was a driveway per assembly, wasn't it? So, well, actually, I don't need to do that because it shows you over here. That was BOSSitize plan number 2. Let's go over there. I'm going to filter it by only plan number 2. And those are the individual tasks that were in there. Okay, what driveway wasn't part of that nomenclature. That was a driveway assembly is where it was. But as you can see, it's attached to plan number 2. And if any time in the future you want to see what that has to do with it, you can either press that button or you can double click on the individual task itself. It'll pull up a blow up and you'll notice a new button down here. It says you want to view this in the plan. So how was this determined? Let's pull it up. That's where it was at. Let's look at it. Close that down. There it was. The zoomed in plan of how that was determined. I'll close this back down. So BOSSitizing allows you to connect to a plan. It takes a snapshot of it, so that way you can remember how you determined your square footage. You can't do that with a with an Excel spreadsheet. And this stuff is just scratching the surface of all the capabilities that are possible with the BOSStimator that Excel can't touch. We talked about assemblies combine things together, packages combine things together, groups. Again, it's so much information that it would just overwhelm you with the abilities of what the BOSStimator can do. If you're not sold that the BOSStimator is by far right now, without even describing these other features that are in there, let alone the ability to create a schedule of values for estimates, let alone matrix estimating, group estimating, plans, attaching plans and drawings to an estimate, to a project, keeping track of the clients, what they look like, keeping track of the projects and what other things that are associated with the projects, doing a photo log so you can have the photos attached to the estimates for the project. Also for the client, you can do the same thing for the client or for whatever. It is just amazing, let alone the ability to come in here, go into your defaults and pull cost books. The BOSStimator's partnered with National Construction Estimator. Every year they come out with some 10 different cost books. So you can go in, find a historical data, bring that historical data and add that to your cost, to your defaults that are National Historical Records. And that's all part of the BOSStimating system. If you ever have a question, always go to the help. It pulls up a complete list of everything that's possible for you to do. All the training tutorials are online. They're free of charge. Doesn't cost you any penny. The reason is because we want you to be successful. So these are the tutorials and the videos on default. Here's are the ones on projects. These are the ones on reporting. Reporting, oh my gosh, it would blow you away with the ability to report. I guess we should go over briefly the reporting ability. Let's go ahead and get into a report. And I'm going to go ahead and skip the errors and go ahead and proceed to the reports, even though that there are errors there. I'm going to say I'm going to make this for a client. I want some details. Then you have total customization. I only want to see those things, labor, material. I don't want any other or subcontractors. I only want categories that have earth in it, countertop, landscape. I don't want any of the other ones in this report. I want these buildings, these floors, these areas, these units. You combine it in any fashion that you want. And then you can say, you know what, I want to see it by category first, then by floor, then by building. You're building a custom report depending upon how you're wanting to break it out. So it would summarize it in that fashion, only for labor, material, equipment, earth, so on and so forth. Total control. And then you can come over here and say, this is just for you. You're fine, whatever. It's customizable. The individual headers and the footers and such. And then it's saved, the format of what you've actually printed out. And it's easy as after you're done with it, pressing the button, the computer generates it, puts it in that format, combines it all together, and makes it category, floor, building, no more groupings up beyond those two here, with only some detail, and it's specifically for your client with this header. That fast. Takes a little bit to combine it together, but you see the level of detail and you'll understand why. There it is. By category 13, electrical earthwork, floor. There is no floor, there's no buildings. We didn't summarize it by that. And it's got some level of detail. And it's all the add-ons, the ones that are distributed are incorporated in it. All the other ones that are not distributed show up at the back. So you can see here, these are the add-ons that are not distributed because they show up as add-ons. The BOSStimator is such a powerful system. I think you have to agree that, and we're just scratching the surface yet, but the BOSStimator makes the Excel obsolete. Like always, feel free to call the boss. We're always here to help you. May you have a blessed day.